Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless host, Clay Travis. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday. Let me know if you can hear me okay. As always, this is Outkick the Show, presented by OddsShark. Go to OddsShark for all of your gambling or informational related needs. Western Conference now set in the NBA. It will start on what night? What night does it start? Sunday night, I believe. We began today's show with a strange feud that has unveiled itself in the last several days. I don't understand this dude, Mike Florio, who tweets like an 85-year-old grandpa, but he's decided to step to me a few times recently, and I actually feel bad, like actually fighting back with him because he tweets like my grandpa. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he's decided of late, and this is a larger picture of the sports media, he's one of the leading Colin Kaepernick defenders out there. Like, oh, Colin Kaepernick needs to be employed. It's so sexist. It's so racist. It's so, like, he's turned into a PC Bromani. I don't know why. Probably because if you read behind the lines, it sounds like he's buddies with the agent for Kaepernick, and Kaepernick's going to feed him some, and they're going to feed him some stuff. And as a result, he can get more scoops. And the result is that he's writing all about Colin Kaepernick and how he deserves to be signed and how good he is and everything else. And it's pretty ridiculous. Like, it makes no sense. I mean, he's a big fucking loser. That's Florio. And also the guy that he's defending, Colin Kaepernick. So he goes on Twitter and writes this piece about how, it's not true that Colin Kaepernick's people said that they had 3 different teams reach out to talk to him. This is strange to begin with. Before I go into the sports media defending him, I want to see if you guys agree with this theory. In the last 10 to 12 years, the only guys who have been covered in free agency more than Colin Kaepernick are these 3 people that I can think of in major American sports. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. 3 guys who have been free agents that have been covered more. Number 1, LeBron James. Number 2, Peyton Manning. I'll give you 4. Number 3, Durant, and number 4, Brett Favre. What do all 4 of those guys have in common? What do all four of those guys that I just named, and you can dispute the order, but I said LeBron James, Peyton Manning, Kevin Durant, and Brett Favre. What do all 4 of those guys have in common? They're all first ballot Hall of Famers. All immediately Hall of Famers. Peyton Manning's free agency, if you disagree with that, was covered as a massive story. You've totally forgotten it. He traveled to San Francisco and visited them. He traveled to Nashville and visited them. He traveled to Denver and visited them. They broke into live programming to show Peyton Manning every time that he landed in a new city. Okay? They followed him with a helicopter as he drove to the Denver Broncos facility. The only time he was ever a free agent. Those are the 4 biggest free agents that I can ever remember in American sports. Again, in this order. LeBron, 2 times, both when he did the decision and when he decided to go back to Cleveland. 2, Peyton Manning, covered like an insane thing. 3, Kevin Durant. And number 4, Brett Favre. Those are the 4 most followed free agents of all time in the history of American pro sports. Okay, who's the 5th? 5th is Colin Kaepernick. Think about how crazy that is. 5 most covered free agents in the history of sports. 4 first ballot Hall of Famers and Colin Kaepernick, who will not even sniff Canton, who will not even be close to it. Who's the motherfucker on here saying, I wouldn't say Durant is a first ballot Hall of Famer? Get the fuck out of here. You don't think Kevin Durant is a first ballot Hall of Famer in basketball? Are you crazy? Are you an idiot? I don't even see the comments very often, but this dude came in here. I might have to snipe you. I might have to snipe you for being that dumb. He is without a doubt first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the 50 greatest basketball players of all time already. Good Lord, son. Don't be so fucking stupid. All 4 of those guys are first ballot Hall of Famers. LeBron James, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, and Kevin Durant. The number 5 on this list is Colin Kaepernick. Okay? Number 5 on this list is Colin Kaepernick. Why has Colin Kaepernick's free agency gotten so much attention? The answer is because there are so many people in the sports media that want to cape for Colin Kaepernick because they want to argue on behalf of the poor, oppressed black quarterback who just stood up for himself and now is not getting signed. Everybody's writing that column, right? People on Fox are making that argument, FS1, people on ESPN, all these people out there like, oh, poor Colin Kaepernick. And I'm like, am I taking crazy pills here? Colin Kaepernick is a shit quarterback in the grand scheme of things, right? He's not a top 15 quarterback. He's not a top 20 quarterback. He's not a top 25 quarterback. He's somewhere around 25 to 32 at the absolute best. Probably, considering that NFL teams are run to win games, fairly not even in the top 32 because there's 32 NFL teams. There are 3 teams that really have bad quarterbacks right now that could theoretically sign him. New York Jets, Cleveland Browns, San Francisco 49ers. He opted out of his contract with the San Francisco 49ers, so that's not going to happen, okay? The other one, obviously, is the New York Jets. Well, they're not going to sign him because they're hoping to win the Sam Darnold sweepstakes or sign Kirk Cousins. And the Cleveland Browns. If you were running the Cleveland Browns right now, with all the shit that you have going on, would you want to bring in Colin Kaepernick to be your starting quarterback? You just went 2-14. You have a history of failing quarterbacks. Does that make sense at all to bring in Colin Kaepernick right now to be your starting quarterback? Of course not. So that is, you got to look at the market. And then beyond that, okay, so if he's not good enough to be a starting quarterback and or he doesn't fit the places that have awful quarterback situations, next question you have to ask is this. Is he worth signing as a backup? And let me ask you this. Do you think, I'm a capitalist, right? Do you think I would sign somebody to write at Outkick if I knew that he wasn't going to make me more money and he could lead to less viewers and less people coming out and paying attention to what I do? People backlashing against me. I'm a First Amendment guy. Do you think that I would sign him? 100% no. And what I would continue to ask you guys, and I see you guys tagging people on this, is every time you see somebody at a media organization saying, sign Colin Kaepernick, you ask them this question. Ask them this question. Why doesn't your media organization sign him? Colin Kaepernick's a former quarterback right now, right? They sign lots of quarterbacks at ESPN, Fox, CBS, and NBC, Bleacher Report, wherever you want to go. Why don't you sign Colin Kaepernick and have him write or report or talk for your network? The answer would be because the CEOs would say, hell no, we're not hiring that guy. We're not going to bring that guy in and allow him to alienate some of our viewers and alienate some of our advertisers. And for what purpose? For what end product? So that your ratings don't change at all? That's the exact same situation that the NFL teams are in right now. People don't keep in mind that there are 32 NFL teams and all of them are small businesses or large businesses, depending on how you want to qualify the size of a business. All of them are in the business of making money. If you are an owner, why would you go hire somebody who's not going to make you more money and could cost you money and is not going to lead to more wins for you and that you hope will never play the whole season? Why would you bring that in? It baffles my mind, baffles me as well, that so many people don't understand that perspective. It makes no sense to go out there and sign him for your team. He doesn't bring you more wins. He costs you money in addition to whatever salary you have to pay him. And as an owner, you may have disagreed with his protest to begin with. It doesn't make any sense. And again, I can't believe I keep having to say this, but so long as your talents exceed your problems, you will always be employed. Colin Kaepernick's talent does not exceed his problems. And yes, that protest is a problem. Now, you may have an issue with the fact that punching a girl and breaking her face in 4 places is not considered a problem. You may have an issue with the fact that Greg Hardy can be employed and that Michael Vick can come out of prison and be employed. But the truth of the matter is this. Their ceilings were a lot higher. I don't agree with the Cincinnati Bengals drafting Joe Mixon, but clearly the Bengals believe that he's going to be a really good running back. And if they believe he's going to be a really good running back, then the risk associated with drafting him at number 48 in the second round is not that substantial. The Cowboys believe that Greg Hardy could get to the quarterback. He couldn't, but that's a limited skill set. There aren't that many defensive ends that can get to the quarterback that were available as free agents. And on top of that, Michael Vick was a pretty good quarterback. He took the Eagles to the playoffs. In theory, he could have won a championship. Does anybody think Colin Kaepernick can win a championship right now? Here's a question for you guys. How come nobody is covering RG3's free agency? Aren't RG3 and Colin Kaepernick pretty similar quarterbacks? Think about that. Both of them came out of the gate and looked incredible. If I had told you that RG3 was going to be a disaster right after his rookie season when he had taken the Redskins to the playoffs, would you have believed it? The answer is no. Colin Kaepernick with Jim Harbaugh, before the NFL defenses caught up to him, looked unstoppable. But the NFL is the ultimate competitive league. You have to prove that you can do everything and that you can do everything well. And ultimately, the only thing that's been proven to be consistently successful in the NFL is what? Being a pocket passer. Now, there are people who've shown up and have made plays over time, and there are certainly mobile quarterbacks who can run, like Russell Westbrook, like honestly Aaron Rodgers, but they don't run as a first resort. They run when the offense crumbles around them. There has not been a quarterback like RG3 or Tim Tebow or Colin Kaepernick who has proven that you can be a run-first quarterback. Remember, that was the criticism of Marcus Mariota. Mariota doesn't run very much. That's why I compare him to Aaron Rodgers. He can run, but he's a pocket passer first. Your primary goal as a passer has to be to make plays in the pocket. And right now, Colin Kaepernick is a lot like RG3. The book is out on him. You can't make plays consistently in the pocket, and therefore the defenses can stop you. It's 100% true, right? That's 100% true. Book is still not out yet on Cam Newton, although his trajectory is going down too. Cam Newton just had the worst season of his career. Maybe he'll bounce back up and prove that he can be a more consistent pocket passer. But so far, the only guys that have been consistent winners in this league are guys who can stand in the pocket and make the reads and make the throws. Colin Kaepernick has shown he can't do that. Nobody's out there screaming about why RG3 isn't hired. And RG3 actually won the starting job for the Cleveland Browns last year before he got injured. Blaine Gabbert beat out Colin Kaepernick. That's the truth. That's the story. I don't understand why more people don't get it. But again, this is the Friday show. I'm just trying to make sense. Can there be a good running quarterback in the NFL? I don't know. But certainly there can't be one who's a primary runner. They just can't last. That's 100% true. I love Johnny Football. Loved watching him play. But certainly he hasn't suggested that he can do it either. VY crapped out. Mike Vick is the most successful running quarterback in the history of the NFL, and he spent years in Fort Leavenworth prison. So that's the truth. Again, I want to come back to an interesting question that I would like you guys just to think about. In the history of American sports, the 5 most covered free agents, in order you can dispute: LeBron James, Peyton Manning, Kevin Durant, Brett Favre. Number 5, Colin Kaepernick. 4 of those guys, first ballot Hall of Famers, who immediately changed the context of sports. When they went there, their teams altered their chances to win a Super Bowl. Brett Favre almost went to the Super Bowl with the Vikings. Peyton Manning went to the Super Bowl twice with the Broncos. Kevin Durant is going to the NBA Finals and probably winning a championship this year with the Warriors. And LeBron James to Miami and to Cleveland totally altered the trajectory of the NBA. We're talking about guys who fundamentally altered the odds for who was going to be a championship contender in both the NBA and the NFL. And then we're talking about Colin Kaepernick, who has none of that at play. So, all these media members out there caping for Colin Kaepernick, you need to hit them with that info, fire back, and just remember, Mike Florio, at Pro Football Talk, total and complete bitch. DBAP, Mike. Okay, let's talk about the Rockets. I don't know about this. Guys, one of the worst performances in a closeout game we have seen in the history of the NBA. I apologize. I respect the picks. I thought that as soon as we found out that the Spurs were not going to be in total control of their roster, that Kawhi Leonard was out, I said, you know what? This is going to be a blowout. The Spurs are just going to mail this one in. They'll be comfortable going back home for Game 7. And then what happened? The Rockets lost by 39. I got to be honest with you. And then after that awful performance by James Harden, you know what he did? He went out to the club and celebrated. Now, look, I'm not one of those guys who says day to day, like, you can't go out and celebrate. You can't have a big time. You can't live it up. But don't you have to have a little bit of knowledge about what the reaction is going to be in your town when you show up and post one of the worst performances for an MVP candidate in the history of the MVP in the NBA playoffs? You lose at home by almost 40, and then you go out that night and celebrate. You've got a huge, long off season, right? You could immediately go home that night, you chill at home, you can even have friends over and celebrate if you want to, but if you want me to root for you, I have to feel like you feel at least as bad about a loss in the playoffs as I do as a fan. If I were a Rockets fan and I were sitting there watching that game, and then I got home and I went to work and I'm busting my ass at work so that I can make the money to pay for the tickets that I spent on the Rockets, and I see James Harden out popping bottles the night after his team lost by 39 points, it's hard for me to root for him or that team again. I'm just being honest with you. If I see it in 3 days, zero impact. If I see him get on a plane and go on vacation the next day, zero impact. Like his season is over. But the very damn night that you got run at home by the Spurs without Tony Parker or Kawhi Leonard, and you want me to believe that it's okay that you gave your 100% effort when you're out at the club that night, I'm sorry. I'm just not going to defend it. And that, to me, that's an incredibly short-sighted ability in James Harden to not recognize what exactly has happened. Any way you lose, just don't go out that night. Just sit home for one night. You didn't finish that game. You didn't get out of there till 11:30 or midnight. Go home, get some rest. Next day, you got 3 months of off season to just chill in. Even more. June, July, August, September. You got 4 months to just chill, to go out every night if you want to. All you have to do is not go out that night. I think it's indefensible. I don't know how you go out and you make an argument that you can support the Rockets. I feel bad for my people in Houston. A lot of people in Houston listening to Outkick right now, watching the show. I feel bad for you guys. You went all in on the Rockets. You really thought they were going to beat the Spurs. You thought at a minimum they were going to force a Game 7. You paid your good money. You went out. They lost by 39, and then the leader of your team was out popping bottles that night in the club. I think that's hard to reconcile. Hard to reconcile that decision-making. Just an easy call. Call your agent. Good idea for me to go out? No, it's not a good idea. Don't do it. Sucks. Sucks for him. Finally, news for the day. The Shark Humper has been identified. He is evidently not Jim McElwain, at least according to Jim McElwain's sources there in Orlando. He is a former cop from New York City who has admitted that it was him, that he was claiming that he was making fun of hot chicks posing with sharks. I don't know if that's a thing or not. He says it's a thing in Britain. No idea if it's a thing or not. But I will tell you this. Really, really strange behavior by him. Really also strange behavior that Jim McElwain's got the guy to come out in public. He says he's fearing for his life because of PETA. Give me a break. PETA's not going to do anything to you. But that is why he was not willing to be seen in public yet. But, again, the Orlando Sentinel, local newspaper in Orlando, Florida, reporting that the number one candidate for posing with the shark, no longer Jim McElwain. This guy has accepted responsibility. He's a former New York City cop. The picture, he says, was not even taken in the state of Florida. It was actually taken in New York. Okay, questions. Additional questions from you guys, I will respond. It looks like we got a couple of Russians in here. What questions do you guys have? Jim might well have paid him. Jim might well have paid him too. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jim McElwain paid the guy to take the blame. Smart move by McElwain potentially. Will Trump get impeached? No, I don't think so. Although I've been saying this for a while. I think it's possible Trump resigns with like 6 months left in his term, argues that he's made America great again, and passes the baton to Mike Pence to allow Mike Pence to run as the incumbent for an additional term. It would not stun me, again, would not stun me if Trump, sometime before his term is out, resigns and allows Pence to be promoted to president, and then allows Mike Pence to run as the incumbent to continue his quest, and argues that the reason he's done it is because he's made America great again. He argues that he's already done his job, that he drained the swamp. He points to whatever results there are. The results actually in the economy are pretty good. Stock market has looked good. And then he allows Pence to run. Could Pence run again? Yeah, you can be elected twice. So Pence could theoretically run in 2020, and he could run again in 2024. So he could be president for the end of Trump's term and then 2 full terms afterwards. That would not surprise me at all. Additional, I already did Kaepernick for Travis Clay. You can go listen to the show on Outkick the Coverage. I did it live on the radio this morning. You can definitely do that. Does all this talk about Cap make it even harder for anyone to sign him? I think it does. I think it does because it puts an added pressure on the team that actually signs him. And I said this before. I think the number of markets that they can actually sign him in. Like if you just run through the country in the NFL, just be intelligent, all right? He was in the perfect market for him in San Francisco. I think he could be signed. I'll go across the whole country in the NFL, okay? Will the Rams sign him? No, they've got a young quarterback in Jared Goff. Makes no sense. Well, the Chargers. Last thing Phillip Rivers wants is another quarterback breathing down his neck. It doesn't make any sense. He doesn't fit that offense. Would the Seahawks sign him? Maybe. Maybe Pete Carroll will be willing to do it. I don't know who the backup is in Seattle right now. Obviously, Russell Wilson is the starter. As we move across the country, the Broncos are not going to do it. They have a mess at quarterback already, and they probably have guys that they think are better. Okay, let's move across the country. State of Texas. Ain't happening. All right, let's take Texas off the table. No Texas team is signing Colin Kaepernick. Kansas City just drafted Mahomes. They already have Alex Smith. Not happening. Minnesota, already kind of a mess there. You've got Sam Bradford. You've got the uncertainty of Teddy Bridgewater. You also, I think, still have, what's his name, the old dude who is still there. Doesn't make any sense there. Come down the country. The Browns, we said it doesn't make any sense. You got a young coach who's trying to make sure that he gets another job. He's 2-14 already. The last thing he wants is to bring more attention there. Titans, make 0 sense. Ain't going to happen. That close to Fort Campbell, no siree on a guy who's not standing for the national anthem. Atlanta Falcons, you really going to compare Matt Ryan to the talent that exists there with Colin Kaepernick? He doesn't fit the system at all. New Orleans, ain't going to happen. Again, partly political. Let's go to the state of Florida. Tampa Bay, no way. No way. I don't think they're going to bring in Jameis Winston and then bring in a younger quarterback or a young quarterback behind him. The Jags, maybe. Maybe the Jags. The Jags are awful. I could see Jacksonville, but they just invested a lot of money in Blake Bortles. Do they really want in Jacksonville, which is a major military community? I don't think it makes a lot of sense to bring him in there. Miami. Maybe Miami could, except this is the motherfucker who endorsed Castro. If you owned a team in Miami that relies on Cuban immigrants and everything else associated there, would you bring them in? No way. Carolina. Maybe Carolina. I just don't think they want the pressure. Cam Newton is their guy. Do they want to bring in all the attention for Colin Kaepernick? I don't think it makes sense. Move up the coast. And again, I'm not even considering the fact that these states may well have voted for Trump. As you run through them, the Jets are really the only team that makes sense. Woody Johnson, I believe, is about to be an ambassador for Donald Trump, or he already is. He's not going to sign him. There's no way that Woody Johnson is going to sign him with the Jets. So where does it make sense for him to go? I mean, you guys give me teams where it makes sense for Colin Kaepernick to go, where it would go and make total sense for him to play there. Chicago, no way. You got Mike Glennon, and you just drafted a first-round quarterback in Mitch Trubisky. Makes 0 sense. Buffalo, I said earlier on the show, potentially Buffalo could make sense because Tyrod Taylor's not very good. But Buffalo's a very conservative city, and they have trouble selling tickets. And remember, they had people tacking Colin Kaepernick mannequins outside the stadium beforehand. I just don't think Buffalo makes very much sense. So when you run through all these lists, the Steelers just drafted Josh Dobbs. They already have Big Ben. Makes no sense. Maybe in Canada. Maybe in Canada is the answer. So, again, I just ran through pretty much every team in the NFL, and you guys tell me where it makes sense. In addition to the fact that all these teams already have quarterbacks. Again, San Francisco might make sense. Cleveland might make sense. And the Jets may make sense. Maybe Buffalo, maybe the Jags. Those are the 5. I believe that's the 5 worst quarterback situations in the NFL right now. The 5 worst quarterback situations right now. The Cardinals, Phoenix is a really conservative town. There's no way that Colin Kaepernick plays well in Phoenix. So I think Seattle politically could handle him. But again, I just don't think it makes very much sense. He could go to Saskatchewan and back up Vince Young, indeed. Oakland, no way. All right. I love you guys. You are fantastic. Go to, let me tell you about my friends at 38 Cottages on Saturday next week. 8 days from now, I'm going down to the beach. You can come with me. All you got to do is go to 38cottages.com and check out all the beachside mansions that we have there. It is going to be fantastic, and you guys will absolutely love it if you've never been to 38 before. Again, go check out 38cottages.com. I will be there for 2 weeks. It should be spectacular. I cannot wait. I hope all of you have a fantastic weekend. When do the NHL playoffs start? Do the NHL playoffs start tonight? I haven't even looked at the NHL playoffs yet. Do we have the Preds playing tonight? I think the Preds may play tonight. I saw that it was probably going to happen. Yes, Preds and Ducks, good deal. I don't have to get up at 4 a.m. I'll be watching this game tonight at 8. I appreciate all of you for being fantastic fans of Outkick the coverage and Outkick the show. I am Clay Travis. Here we go. D-Bat, motherfuckers. Don't be a pussy. Gambling picks coming soon. I am Clay Travis, and this has been Outkick the show. Go check out OddsShark for all your gambling and informational related needs.